All right, well, good morning to Chrissy joining us live, and then to those of you watching the recording back. As I said yesterday, this is never about showing up being pretty. We're just getting up and starting our day with yoga. This morning is going to be a pretty strong flow. It will get into the hips, a little into the heart, but it's intended to open you up for the middle of the week where it's like, okay, normally this can feel like a slump. We're almost to the finish line, depending on your work schedule. So the overarching theme this week has been manifest, and it was inspired by some astrological event that's happening. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I happened to read it and I was like, that sounds like a yoga theme. Because there's so much, at least in my life, that I know I can dream of, and it feels sometimes like I'm not good enough for that, or, who am I to even consider something like that? But what I'm going to ask you today is to notice when that shows up on your mat. Say, for example, I cue a pose and your initial instinct is, I don't like that pose, or I can't do that pose. And if you can imagine the pose, I'm going to encourage you to try the pose. The one that we'll move into, I'm not even going to tell you. I'm going to surprise you. So like I said, it's a heart and a hip opener. You may already know where we're going with that. But so we're going to start the practice today in hero's pose. I'm going to come down to my knees, sit on my heels. And this is where, if you have any sensitivity in the knees, if you want to maybe sit on a block, this might be nice. So that's an option. You can also tuck your toes under if you want to really get a nice foot and heel and ankle stretch. I'm actually going to lay feet flat because that feels better to me this morning. Then once you're settled in your seat, place your hands on your thighs, palms down, or you can place your hands in your laps, palms up. If you're a lady, left hand on bottom. If you're a man, right hand on top. All right. Sit up really, really tall so your spine is straight. The back of your neck is very, very straight. Your chin is parallel to the earth, and your gaze is directly forward. You can also rest your gaze over the bridge of your nose at a spot on the floor, or behind closed eyes, centering your awareness on your brow center, or your third eye. And once you have your posture and your drishti set, we'll start to check in with the breath. Your natural breath right now, just feeling it enter and leave your body. You might notice some tension in your face. Try to soften it. And relax your jaw as well. Now slightly constrict the back of your throat as you slightly part your teeth and begin to breathe as if you're blowing fog on a window. We call this Ujjayi breath. You'll hear a louder sound in your skull as the breath moves through your nasal passages. Try to make this breath long, smooth and steady. Equal length on the inhale and the exhale. But notice that subtle pause in between each breath. Once again, soften the sides of your neck and your shoulders. And feel how your spine seems to get a bit longer. Then place your right hand on your belly, just above your belly button. And the next time you exhale, feel as if you're pressing that breath out as your low ribs hug down and in toward the spine. This is your Uddiyana Bandha, the lock in the middle of your body. The strength. We'll pay close attention to the core today. So notice its connection to your breath now. As you exhale, your abdominal muscles contract. As you inhale, your rib cage expands. The next time you exhale, place your right hand back on the top of your knee or your thighs. Keep that strength in your core. And once again, soften your face. And take this moment to set an intention for your practice. Maybe there's something in your life that you'd like to manifest, a goal or a dream. Or maybe it's just cultivating some characteristics like patience and gratitude, kindness for yourself and others. And take one last deep breath in here. Hold the breath. Try to sip in a little more air. And as you exhale, do so slowly and feel the tension leave your body and bat your eyes open. If you're wearing glasses, now's a good time to set them to the side and come into downward facing dog. Also, if you'd like to play the playlist, it's available in the Facebook group. All right, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. We're going right into it today. We're going to warm the body up right off the bat. So in your downward facing dog, make sure that you are equally pressing away from the yoga mat and lifting your hips while you ground down through your feet. We're going to slide into a high plank to measure the distance between our hands and our feet. If it feels like you're coming a little too forward, walk your feet back so that your shoulders align over your wrists. And you've got this really strong core. There it is again. Heels ideally are over the balls of your feet. And you're still using your Ujjayi breath to sustain you in this static pose. On your next exhale, shift back to downward facing dog. We have a tendency to shorten our stance in downward facing dog, and that's fine if that feels right. But for today, we're going to try to keep this equal distance to help us flow better. So rotate your upper arm bones, like your armpits, toward the front of the room and feel your shoulder blades slide down your back. Really grip in your fingertips and your hands and start to press each heel down one at a time as we stretch the calves and again the ankles. Just wake up the hamstrings. We'll now do them together. Inhale as you lift the heels up, and exhale as you press them down. Last time. Next time you come onto your tippy toes, we're going to tippy toe our way all the way to the top of the mat into Uttanasan forward fold, where we'll keep the knees bent a lot. And then grab each elbow with the opposite hand, creating a box around your head for ragdoll. You might sway side to side, just really loosening up in the upper body. Maybe shake your head yes, and then no. And a long exhale to surrender. Now start to lift up through the arches of your feet and feel how that engages your inner thighs and your hips, almost like you're trying to rip your mat apart between your feet. Such strength. Then release your arms, let them dangle. Interlace your fingers behind your back and press your knuckles to the sky. And then if you like, tuck your chin into your chest and press your knuckles toward the front of the room, really opening up through the chest and the shoulders. Be sure to breathe deeply. And we're going to rise to standing now. So press down through your feet, bend your knees, lift your heart up with your knuckles, and then start to press them down as we find a slight standing back bend, opening up through the chest and the throat. And then come all the way back to center. Release the palms and let them dangle by your side. Hopefully you feel a lot looser than you did when we first came to the mat, because now we're going to really heat the body up with some Surya Namaskaras. We're going to salute the sun. So in mountain pose with your feet hip width apart, once again I want you to lift through your arches, unlock your knees and feel the strength in your legs, these strong roots. Reestablish your gaze in this new position and connect with your Ujjayi breath. And once again, place your right hand right above your belly button and feel the strength in this core. All right, palms by your side facing forward. On an inhale, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward. Halfway lift, flat back. High plank to chaturanga. Upward facing dog or baby cobra. And exhale into downward facing dog. Take a big breath in here and a big sigh out. Finding movement in the body. Then look between your hands, bend your knees, either step or jump to the top of your mat, halfway lift, and fold forward. Rise to standing, reach up, look up. Exhale, hands together at your heart. Yeah, so now we got the blood moving. I'm trying not to mess with that microphone too much. And now we're gonna flow through this Sun A 2 more times. I want you to move with your breath. I won't cue the breath, I will only cue the poses. The second time, hopefully you can just tune me out and flow on your own. We'll begin in mountain, reach up, fold forward, halfway lift, high plank to chaturanga, upward facing to downward facing dog. Look between your hands, bend your knees, step or hop to the top of your mat, halfway lift, fold forward, rise to standing, hands to your heart. One more time, Sun Salutation A, reach up, fold forward, halfway lift, high plank to chaturanga, Urdhva Mukha Svanasana to Adho Mukha Svanasana. That's upward to downward facing dog. Look between your hands, Bend your knees, come onto your tippy toes and see if that helps you jump to the top of your mat. Halfway lift, fold forward. Rise up, hands to your heart. Nice. Now the heart's pumping, the blood's flowing, your breath is moving, feeling good. So we're going to go into Sun Salutation B. With an inhale, reach up. Exhale, chair pose. We're going to sink into our heels here, continuing to lift through the arches of the feet as we grip in the toes and sink a little lower. Keep your pelvis tucked in / neutral and your gaze forward. 2 more breaths in chair, Uttanasan. And exhale, fold. Halfway lift. High plank to chaturanga. Upward facing to downward facing dog. We're adding in warrior 1. Lift your right leg. Look forward. Step your right foot between your hands. Bump your left foot out. Rise up. Inhale to reach up and back. And exhale to flow. High plank to chaturanga. To upward facing. To downward facing dog. Left leg lifts. Look forward. Step into warrior 1. Inhale to reach up and look up. And exhale to flow. If you ever want to skip this vinyasa, know that you can go straight to downward facing dog. And we'll take 3 breaths. In through the nose and sigh out of your mouth. Come onto your toes, bend your knees, look forward, step or hop to the top of your mat. Halfway lift, fold forward. Uttanasan, mountain pose. Yeah. So now, hopefully, you're starting to build that inner fire. We're going to go through Sun B one more time. This time, move with your breath. If at any time I'm cueing faster than you like, faster than your breath likes, don't listen to me. Your breath is the best teacher. Reach up, chair pose. Fold forward, halfway lift, high plank to chaturanga, to upward facing dog, to downward facing dog. Right leg lifts, step into warrior 1. Inhale on the ride up, and exhale on the ride down. Vinyasa or meet us in down dog. Left leg, warrior 1. Reach up and back, and flow. Three breaths when you get to downward facing dog. Sigh out your exhale. It felt ridiculous to me when I was first getting to know yoga, if you will. But now it's one of my favorite releases. After 3 breaths, look forward, come onto your tippy toes, bend your knees, and step or jump to the top of your mat. Halfway lift, fold. Uttanasan, mountain pose, hands together at your heart. So now, slightly part your palms, but keep your fingertips touching. And if it feels safe to you, close your eyes and feel that pulse between your fingertips. This energy just reminding you that you're alive, you're worthy, just for being alive. Too often we get caught up in the, I gotta do this or do that before blank. I'm guilty of that. But truly, we're perfect just as we are. And back to mountain pose. If you're feeling sweat on your skin, heck yeah, so am I. We're burning away those impurities. So with your gaze forward, bring your intention back into your mind and into your heart center. For those of you who are sort of new and that sounds crazy, trust me. Then with an inhale, we reach up and fold forward. This will be a modified Sun B. So we're flowing through our Sun A, meeting in downward facing dog. This time, lift your right leg, and we're gonna step into Crescent Lunge, Ashtachandrasan. So before you rise up, if you wanna use your blocks to help you keep a straight spine, this would be a great place to do it. But go ahead and make sure that that back heel is lifted over your back toes and that your front knee is aligned over your front ankle. Here's that core again, engage it. You might even place your hands on your hips to help you rise up. I find that sometimes it's better for my alignment to slightly bend my back leg, my back knee, because it helps me square my shoulders over my hips. You could also shorten your stance if it feels a little crazy. If you used blocks, set them to the side. We're just balancing in this first crescent lunge. So similar to Warrior One, we're gonna reach up and back and exhale, flow into the other side. Lift your right leg, step forward for crescent lunge. I won't cue as much on this side, but feel it. You might need to bump that left hip crease back if your left hip is jutting out in front of your right. Then reach up and back and flow into your vinyasa or step into downward facing dog. We'll meet there. And once you get to your downward facing dog, take your 3 cleansing breaths. We're stirring up a lot of stale energy, stale oxygen, and so we want to get it out. This time, lift your right leg. Keep your right foot flexed. Look between your hands. Bend your right knee. And kind of like a cat back, you're going to really slowly roll that right knee forward until you set the right foot down, coming back into crescent lunge. So we were just here. Now we're going to add in some hip openers. Gaze forward. Take a breath in. Exhale into Warrior Two. Pivot on your back foot. Check your feet. Front heel aligned with the back arch. Relax your shoulders. And you can keep your fingertips spread wide here. You can keep them together. Yogi's choice. Sink deeper into your front right knee. Open your right knee up towards your right pinky toe. Make sure you can see your front big toe and sink a little deeper. Then with an exhale, peaceful warrior, straighten your right leg, and we're gonna glide into our Trikonasan Triangle. Here's, again, where a block would help quite a bit if you want to extend, really lifting up through the side body. Take your gaze and look toward your left thumb, and we'll take 3 more breaths. Make sure there's a micro bend in your front right knee. I guess you only have one, your front knee. Nice, and on an exhale, we're gonna come back into Warrior Two. That was really for your hamstring. So now we're gonna move into side angle, Parsvakonasan. The first option is you can place your right forearm on your right knee, but avoid trying to use that as a prop where you're just sinking into it. You're still going to keep that core engagement. If Utthita Parsvakonasan, or extended side angle, is in your practice, you can reach toward a block or toward the mat. Just keep that alignment with your front knee over your front ankle. And we're going to take 4 more breaths now. Your gaze is once again up toward your left thumb. And then look down at your mat. Frame your front foot. Pivot onto the ball of your back foot and step into high plank. Flow through your vinyasa. Nice. And we'll take a break here, regaining our center in this downward facing dog, and to take a moment to experience the sensational difference between the right and the left leg. This is always a trip to me because it feels like whichever one I did first, which is usually the right, is a little bit longer. Then lift your left leg, look forward, same thing, step it between your hands and rise into crescent. Ashta Chandrasan. Set your drishti now that it's changed. And with an exhale, warrior 2. Pivot on the back foot. Try to keep your gaze steady. Your body just moves around it. Notice if your back knee is locked, unlock it and then press down into the knife edge of your back foot. You'll get more of a hip opener and more of balanced weight between the legs. Sink deeper. Notice if your shoulders are up towards your ears, relax them, sink deeper. And peaceful warrior. Straighten the left leg, and we'll come into Trikonasan on this side. I'm taking 5 breaths in total. After 5 breaths, rise back up into warrior 2. And then come into side angle. Again, you've got the front forearm that you can rest on the front knee, or you can reach down for a block or to the mat. But try to keep that right shoulder pulling open so that you're sort of twisting in this pose, but we're trying to keep out an open heart. 3 more breaths. And look at your mat. Frame your front foot with your hands. Pivot onto the ball of your back foot and flow through a vinyasa. When you get to downward facing dog, guess what? Take 3 breaths. And come down to hero's pose, the same pose we started in. And we're going to take a rest, but keeping the energy up so that our head is still above our heart. You might close your eyes and just take a few moments to breathe and recognize the changes in your body from your practice in the beginning until now. If it feels like you can't catch your breath, take this time to reconnect with it. And know that if at any point during the practice you are breathless, that's not what we want. So come down, give yourself a rest. Let your breath return to its normal rhythm, and then sync back up with it. It's like pouring from an empty cup. That doesn't make sense. Your breath sustains you. It heats you, it cools you. All right, come back into downward facing dog. Look between your hands, come onto your tippy toes, bend your knees, step or hop to the top of your mat. Halfway lift, fold forward. Rise all the way up to standing, reach up, look up, exhale, hands to your heart. Nice job. I can't see you, Chrissy, but I know you're doing awesome. And those of you watching the recording, good job. If you need to take a second to get some water, now would be a good time to do that. We're moving into our equanimity, and that will be our standing balance sequence. All right, once you are ready, we're going to come back to the top of the mat. The cool thing about watching a recorded video is that you can pause it, like if you need to go to the bathroom or something. But for the sake of time and for those live, we're going to keep rolling right along. So mountain pose, start to shift your weight back and forth between each foot. They should be hip width distance apart. And every time you shift your weight to one side, practice unlocking that knee so that we're not putting too much stress on the joints. And then back to your center of gravity. Place both hands on your hips. We're going to keep them neutral. And again, shoulders stack over the hips. Shift your weight to the left, unlock your left knee, and lift your right knee in front of you. Right foot is flexed. Try to keep that right knee in line with your right hip. And then we're going to pulse. So take a breath in, and when you exhale, lift your right knee up. And we'll do that for about 30 more seconds. It's probably more like 15, but I overestimated. All right, set the right foot down. Shift your weight to the right side, unlock the right knee, lift your left knee. Keep the left foot flexed, and we'll pulse 15 seconds. Breath in, exhale, lifts the left knee up. Last time, and set that left foot down. Now, with your hands still on your hips, shift your weight from side to side and notice the difference. By strengthening the hip flexor, we not only have more mobility in the hips, but we have a stronger standing posture, because it also supports the lower abdominal muscles, which supports the lower back. Now, shift your weight to your left leg again, unlock your left knee, lift your right knee in front of you, then reach down with your peace fingers, so that's your index and your middle finger, and grab your big toe. Start to straighten your left leg. If you need to keep your left knee or right knee bent just a bit, so we're lifting our right leg. If you need to keep the right knee bent a bit, please do. And you might just stay here. This might be enough for you today. If you want a little more, start to shift the right leg out toward the right, holding on with your right peace fingers. Your gaze is still forward, and you're still using Ujjayi breath to sustain you. And then bring that right leg back in front, let go, and set it back down on the mat. Again, shift your weight back and forth, notice the difference. And we'll do the same thing on the left side. Balance on the right leg, lift your left knee, reach down with your left fingers to straighten the left leg. I'm keeping my right hand on my hip to help me stay stable in my right leg, and so that I have an alignment cue for my shoulder to stay over my hip. Sometimes we like to lean forward with the leg. Ooh, we're gonna try to keep this lifted. Now again, you can stay here or you can start to open up toward the left. Be kind to yourself. Notice if that inner critic starts to speak up, because one side is not always like the other. This might be harder, this might be easier, but try to avoid labeling it either way. Just learn from what your body has to teach you. Then back to center, let go, and gently set the left foot back down. Heck yeah. So we're strengthening the glutes here as well. You probably feel that in the upper part of your buttocks. This is all on purpose. Now take your right foot, step to the back of your right mat, or step to the back of your mat, and we're gonna come into a wide-legged forward fold. But before we do, again, unlock your knees. Take your fingertips and interlace them behind your back. We did this earlier at the top of the mat. Start to press your knuckles down as you tilt your head back, opening up through the chest and the heart, and then hinge at your hips as you fold forward. It's hard to talk and do that. Again, save your low back by keeping your knees slightly bent here. And if it feels good, you might even kind of sway side to side. This is very grounding. That's awesome for the hamstrings. Now release your hands to the mat, just wherever, let them fall. Your head and neck are loose, and feel this release. And lift up halfway. Walk your hands back to the front of your mat. Step into a forward fold, Uttanasan. Halfway lift. Fold again. We're strengthening the core when we do that. And then rise all the way up to standing. Hands together at your heart. Now we're ready. Natarajasan, or dancer pose. If you have any balancing issues and you need a wall or a stool or a table even to help support you on one side, that's great. There's no competition in yoga, and that's one of my favorite things about it. So I'll cue moving into it. Know that you can use whatever prop you need to make yourself feel strong in this posture. So hands on the hips, shift your weight to the left leg, lift your right knee in front of you, then slide your right foot behind you and reach with your right hand to grab the inside of your right foot. So the palm of, or your fingertips should be wrapped around the arch, holding on to the front of your foot. Then again, with your left knee bent a lot, we're gonna lift the left arm to the sky and start to press that right foot into our right hand as we slowly shift forward. You might take a mudra with your free hand, but keep finding that external rotation in the shoulders and lifting in the hips. 3 more breaths in dancer. And then slowly, gracefully, we'll come out and set the right foot back down. Nice job. Yeah, now you definitely feel energy on that the right side, a little bit different than the left side. So now we're gonna let it catch up. Shift the weight to the right leg, unlock the right knee, lift your left knee, and same thing. We're gonna move into Natarajasan. This side is always so much harder for me. So know that if you're falling, great, that means you're practicing. that yoga is a practice, not a perfect. For those of us who struggle with perfectionism, this really, really, really forces you to face that and be okay with that. And then slowly come out back into your mountain pose. And we're just gonna like shake it off here. Shake it off, whatever that song is. Whew. If it feels ridiculous, good, you're doing it right. Yeah. All right. So that was it. Hopefully you feel equanimous or whatever. We're gonna flow this time to break some of that up. So unlock the knees. Surya Namaskara A, reach up, fold forward. Halfway lift, high plank to chaturanga. Upward facing dog to downward facing dog. And take 3 breaths, in through the nose, out of the mouth. 2 more. Sweet. Lift your right leg to the sky. Look between your hands, and we're gonna rock into a half pigeon. So you'll bring your left knee behind your right hand. If you can get your front shin parallel to the front of the mat, great. If you can't, you're like most people. So the idea here is, again, to keep your hips level, and then maybe you stay with your heart lifted up. Maybe you feel like you can come down to your forearms. I encourage you to explore in this pose and use whatever props you have available to you. Like maybe, just maybe, you can get your head to a block. Or maybe, just maybe, you're getting your head to the mat today. We'll stay here for 1.5 minutes, giving you time to recognize the tension and consciously try to let it go. You've got about 30 more seconds, and I meant to mention, you've also got the option to place a block or a bolster underneath the hip that we're stretching for added support. So keep that in mind for your next practice or for the next side. And begin to deepen your breath as you prepare your body to move. Lift up your head and your heart, look forward, find a slight back bend. And then we're gonna move back into downward facing dog. There's an optional vinyasa flow here. So if you wanted to step into high plank and then flow through a vinyasa to get to down dog, that's cool too. We'll take a moment to again observe the difference in the 2 legs. How could it feel even longer? It's crazy. Lift your left leg and step into your half pigeon. This side again might feel entirely different. For example, my left leg is longer than my right leg, so it always does. But work with it. Yoga meets us where we are, not where it wants us to be. It's not like that. And explore with where you get to on your mat, knowing that wherever you do get to is perfect. that there's no expectation. We're just learning about ourselves and about our practice, compensating the glutes and the hips for all the work that they've been doing today. More seconds. What can you release? Now deepen your breath. Walk your hands back toward you as you lift up your head and your heart. Again, finding a slight back bend, not just for your heart and your chest, but also for that hip flexor that we worked so much earlier. That feels great. All right, downward facing dog. If you want to add in that extra vinyasa flow, do. It would be the last one today. Then come down to your knees and once more into hero's pose. From hero's pose, we're going to move into Uttanasan or camel. So come up onto your knees, tuck your toes under, place your palms on your back, your low back, with your fingertips pressing toward your feet. Engage your core here. That's so important. And we're going to press the elbows toward one another behind us as the shoulders drop down and back. Keep pressing down and forward with your palms. The action here is coming from the hips more than the back. And start to just lean your head and your neck back. We're just going to experience what this feels like. This might be awesome, and this might be where you stay. Come back to center, press the palms down so you're really supporting yourself here. And just take a moment, gather. We'll move back into it. This time, if you want to reach down, maybe with your right hand to your right heel, and then maybe to your left heel with your right hand. I think I said that backwards on the other side. Great. And then drop your head and your neck back. We'll take the 3 to 5 breaths. Then place your hands back on your hips, pressing them down as you slowly lift back up. This time, bring your palms to the mat. Take your knees as wide as your yoga mat and extend into child's pose, extended child's pose. You can also come into child's pose with your knees together, traditional, and rest your shoulders by sliding your hands down by your feet. Whatever feels right, whichever child's pose feels right after such a deep back bend. Three more breaths. And go ahead and drop your Ujjayi breath, but continue to breathe consciously with intention. Perfect. We're going to rise up to all fours. Walk the knees under the hips, cross your left ankle over your right, slide the ankles out to the right, and drop to your bum. From here, We're moving into Navasan, or a boat pose. You can start with one leg or you can start with both. I'm going to start with both. But the idea here is we're not using our jaw, we're not using our face or even our upper body for this posture. We're using our core. That's the front and the back body. So start to lean your shoulders back, and you'll feel when your feet come off the mat. There's that center of gravity again, and then maybe you straighten your feet or your legs, or maybe you keep them bent. I'm going to keep mine slightly bent today. Your gaze is forward, and your Ujjayi breath might serve you in this posture. This might be where you stay, and that's great. If you want a little more, bring your palms together at your heart, and we're going to practice yogi bicycles for just 1 minute. So take a breath in. When you exhale, straighten your right leg, meet your right elbow with your left knee. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, does the other side. One of my dear yoga teacher friends calls this yogi rowing or something like that. Makes me think of kayaking down the Mulberry. I'm in Omaha now, but I do miss the Arkansas nature. And know that you can take a rest. If you're like, dang, you just come into a rest, because rest is also part of the practice. Keep that in mind. But when you're ready to begin again, lift back up and begin again. Right, so we're going to hold this boat pose and very slowly lower all the way to our back. Yeah. And you might just place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart and appreciate this very short shavasana. Then bend your knees and hug them into your chest so that you can rock side to side. And here you'll massage your low back, your kidneys, all the precious organs that are working for you that we don't see every day, or ever, I guess. But we know they're there and that we need to take care of them. And this is a way to do it. And maybe you like Happy Baby and it's in your practice. You grab the outer edges of both feet, bend the knees as you press them toward the earth. My hair is bothering me. Okay. Yeah. And then if you want more in the hamstrings, you can straighten one leg and then the other. Just, there's no rhyme or reason here. Just do what feels good in your body. And then we'll come into an inversion. So you've got options. You can get a block, place it under the small of your back, and come into a supported waterfall. You can stay in this traditional waterfall with the feet lifted toward the sky. Or if shoulder stand is in your practice and you want to take it now, you'll use your core strength. So place your palms down by your side, just so that your shoulder blades are tucked underneath your back. Use an exhale to lift your hips up and then press up with your hands. If you come into shoulder stand, keep your gaze forward. And we'll be here for 30 more seconds. If you're in shoulder stand and want to practice with plow, you can take your feet behind your head, interlace your fingers, and press your knuckles and arms into the mat. for a deeper heart opener. And slowly we'll make our way back to our back here, bending the knees so that the feet come flat to the mat, as close to your glutes as you can get them, while keeping your knees in line with your hips. We're moving into Setu Bandha Sarvangasan, bridge pose. We'll hold bridge for 5 breaths. Keep squeezing the inner thighs together in and up, leading with the bones. And when you've taken 5 breaths, slowly lower. Hug your right knee into your chest and extend your left leg. We'll take a short twist here. Extend your right arm out into a T, palm facing up, and use an exhale to slide your right knee over your left side body. Look over your right shoulder for an additional stretch in the top of the spine. And take 3 to 5 deep breaths. And come back to center. Squeeze the right knee one more time. Maybe take it out over to the right if it feels tight. And then switch sides. Extend the right leg. Hug your left knee into your chest. Extend your left arm out into a T, palm up. And then slide your right knee over or across your right side body. Look to the left. And breathe. And an exhale takes you back to center. Again, squeeze the left knee one last time. Maybe take it out to the left. Then last thing before our final rest, bend your knees. Take your feet as wide as your yoga mat. Place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart, and just windshield wiper your knees from side to side, making sure that the front of the quads, the hip flexors, everything is stretched and you have more mobility than you started with. Last time to both sides. And then extend both legs out. Take your arms wide, palms facing up for your shavasana. If you want to add any props here, maybe a bolster under the knees or blocks under the thighs to support this posture, please do. And I'm going to encourage you not to rush through it. You just worked so hard. Give yourself at minimum 7 minutes. If you want to pause the video or turn it off, that's fine, but please give this time to yourself so that your practice is able to integrate. Your nervous system, both parasympathetic and sympathetic, are important. And right now we need to rest, strengthening the parasympathetic nervous system. Rest and digest. Notice where your thoughts go when it gets quiet. Again, we're not judging, we're just learning and redirecting. And you're totally welcome to stay right where you are if this is serving you. But if you feel ready, start to deepen your breath. Notice the one breath, one movement of your chest and your belly. And wiggle your fingers and toes as you start to stretch your arms and legs in opposite directions. And then we'll hug both knees into the chest and roll to whichever side feels right this morning. And give yourself this moment to pause, remembering your intention, what it is that you need to manifest, and decide to take that with you and leave the rest. And slowly we'll press up to a seat. We'll bring our hands together in front of our heart, Anjali Mudra. Once again, feel the pulse between your fingertips. And know that the light in me sees, loves, and honors the light in you. We lift our thumbs to our third eye and bow to our highest selves. Namaste. I'm going to end the recording now.